It is a pleasure to be here. Came all the way from Argentina, Latin America. It's the first time we're here in Atlanta, so super excited. We also been in consensus last week, then went to visit the Denver and Boulder communities, San Francisco, and now here. What I'm going to try to do here is to give you a little bit of the sense what we've been working on for the last 5 years in the ecosystem, and also try to give you a perspective on how this blockchain revolution looks like from the emerging markets. Because I've been traveling around Europe as well, and it's kind of different, the perspective on why Bitcoin or blockchain are so important in our society when you have Venmo or TransferWise, or when you have 65% of the population of your region completely unbanked and poor. So I'll try to give you that flavor during the presentation. How many of you are developers, just to have an idea of the technical background? Okay. I am an economist, so I don't know how to code, and I'll try to make the presentation as technical as possible so the developers can profit from it, but also for the non-technical part of the audience, so you guys can understand what RSK is about. How many of you know what RSK is? Okay, good, great. Before I start, I would like to give you a little background of the RSK founders. As I told you, I'm an economist. I've been working in private equity all my life until I got across Bitcoin at La BitConf in Argentina in 2013. It just blew my mind and got into the space full time. Diego, who is a co-founder also and the CEO of the project, he created the Argentine NGO. Also, he helped 10 other communities to be built. The grassroots movement in Latin America that ended up in the Latin American Bitcoin NGO. We've created the first Bitcoin center that ever existed in Latin America, in Buenos Aires. You're all welcome to come and visit. And we've been running La BitConf, which is the most important Bitcoin and blockchain conference in the region that goes from one country to another every single year. And it's amazing the impact that it has at the community level every time it goes to a new country. This year will be the first week of December in Chile. Last year was in Colombia, so you guys are, and girls, welcome to join us. We have also Ruben and Adrian. They've been running a software development company for the last 15 years. And Sergio Lerner, that many of you might know. How many of you know how many Bitcoins Satoshi mined? Around 1 million, right? The exact number is 980,000. That analysis was done by Sergio in 2013, okay? Sergio got involved in the space in 2011, and he started analyzing and finding bugs in the code because he didn't believe that the code was good enough. So he ended up finding 6 of the 10 most important vulnerabilities ever found on Bitcoin, and he was hired by the US Bitcoin Foundation as a security auditor. Then in 2013, he also created the first Turing-complete smart contract platform that ever existed, called QuixCoin, with a Q, QIX coin. It's a public paper, you can see it. But it was a university project only focused on online poker. Right? So he didn't see this potential of a Turing-complete platform to basically improve our society. But the reason why Vitalik hired him as a security auditor when launched Ethereum is because Sergio has developed the first Turing-complete smart contract platform that ever existed. He also published a paper called DAG coin, DAG coin, which is the technology on which IOTA was based. He also was security auditor of IOTA with, well, I don't want to get into those details, but you know, we know the technology and we decided not to use it. So we've been in the space for a very long time. We've been helping build a Latin American community way before we created RSK. And it was very clear for us that there was a huge need in the emerging markets for an alternative or improved or automated financial system. And we, after a very interesting conversation with Nick Szabo in 2014, when he was kind of frustrated about the fact that we were not using the infrastructure and electricity consumption already to secure Bitcoin to run smart contracts, that we decided to create RSK. So in general terms, if you think about it, the internet has transformed our lives, right? We have the whole history and knowledge of humankind in our pocket. This is crazy. But there's one thing that the internet, as we knew it 9 years ago, was not able to solve, which is that digital files are very easy to copy, right? If I send you a picture of a $100 note, you won't give that any value. Or if I send you a picture of the certificate of ownership of my house, you won't feel that now you own my house, right? Because I could be sending it to all of you at the same time. So when we talk to central banks or entrepreneurs or different regulators around the world, what we tell them is that the most important feature that blockchain technology solved was exactly that. Now we can have digital files that sit on a blockchain that cannot be double spent, okay? And this, in our vision, is more than a cryptocurrency, it's more than a technology, it's a whole new era of the internet that we call the Internet of Value. Because we expect that it will bring the same benefits that the Internet of Information brought to our society, you know, a free exchange of information, instant and available to everyone, but now apply to the free exchange of value, any kind of value, right? And this could really transform our society. That's why the RSK mission is technology at the service of society, because take my personal history. I've been working in private equity, Wall Street related businesses all my life. If we do exactly the same that we were doing before, just using blockchain technology, we're basically not changing anything, right? This is the first time in our lifetimes as founders of the projects, and I think this is shared by the whole RSK community worldwide, that we have a chance to do something to improve our society with this technology. And this is why we're so excited about it. From an economic point of view, it is very clear in Latin America the role that Bitcoin plays in the financial system, right? In Europe, in the US, if you talk to large software corporations in the world, they will tell you that, you know, yeah, the blockchain is the exciting part and not the Bitcoin that much. But we've been working on the Bitcoin ecosystem for the last 5 years. So we understand, and this is something I'm going to quote from Andreas Antonopoulos that comes to our conferences every year. He said, you know, when I travel around the world, people ask me, why Bitcoin? When I go to Latin America, people ask me, how Bitcoin? Because the why, they understand very well. You know, we have like 30% inflation in Argentina as of today. I think the Argentine peso lost 15% of its value since I left Argentina 2 weeks ago. 24. Yeah, it's super sad. And not even go into what's happening in Venezuela, right? But look at this. This, I mean, maybe you can see it from far. This is the value of the US dollar of the last 100 years, right? So the US dollar, the strongest currency that we have, lost 98% of its value since 1933 until today. So it is pretty clear to us that there is a lot of room to improvement, let's put it that way. When we are trying to save long-term value, if a UFO look at us from the outside and say, what's wrong with these people? You know, they've been able to decode the DNA. They send a probe to Pluto, and now they are planning to colonize Mars. But when they want to really save value over time, they just dig underground these yellow bricks, the yellow stones, put them into bricks, and hide them underground again, right? And this is what we've been doing for the last 5,000 years. So there's definitely room to improvement. And this is exactly the reason why, well, this is, you know, the green area is the amount of US dollars, right, in circulation, and the yellow line is the value of gold since '84 until 2012. So not only that the US dollar has lost 98% of its value, but we are in the middle of the unique experiment in modern monetary policy. And this is when Bitcoin started. So for us, it was very clear that we're probably starting a new process similar to the one we saw 150 years ago, when religion and government, after the French Revolution, got separated in the Western world, where maybe we're going to start a process that might take 5 years, 20 years, 50 years. Maybe they're going to burn some people on the parks as well, but where the role of government and money might be separated. It's maybe not that clear for you guys in the US, it's super clear for us in Latin America, you know? Now the internet is providing us an option. We don't need to trust central banks or politicians anymore in the creation of money. So just, you deal with the administration of our society. We'll use the internet for scarce money because we trust math and cryptography more than human beings. Makes sense. So when we started building RSK, it was very clear for us the value of Bitcoin as store of value, right? But it lacked functionality. When Vitalik and the Ethereum team created Ethereum in 2015, it was amazing. It was the first time that we had programmable money, right? And when you're planning to include financially billions of new users that will be using microtransactions, you need automation, you need programmable money. But we had to choose between the most secure and reliable network and cryptocurrency in the world and the most flexible and programmable. And we needed both. And this is the reason why we created RSK. So basically, RSK is a combination of the security and stability of the Bitcoin network and its currency scarcity with a business logic from the Ethereum virtual machine. So we believe and we expect that with this unique combination of the security of Bitcoin and flexibility of smart contracts, we can contribute to the development of the Internet of Value, right? And as Rika was saying before, everything we do is open source, right? So we don't see any competition within the different projects. We see that we are all pulling on the same direction. We're trying to transform our society, right? 50% of the inhabitants of this planet are currently poor and outside the system. But they will have access to the internet for the first time in the next 2 years through their cell phones. And they are desperate to have a consumer credit, do microtransactions, microfinance, do e-commerce and buy 20 cents food on the street or send $1 or euro per week to their families wherever they live. So, we expect that with RSK we can help into this direction. So RSK has been built on these 5 different pillars. The first one, it's a virtual machine that is fully compatible with that of Ethereum. So that was a no-brainer for us. We appreciate and we love so much what's being created on the smart contract and blockchain community that we wanted to make sure that everything we built was fully compatible. And this is the reason why we received so much, such a great welcome from the Ethereum and smart contract community, because it's great to have options, right? Many projects are a little bit scared what's going to happen with Casper, or some use cases might be affected with the cost or the lack of scalability. There are many projects that are concerned about the size of the blockchain. So it's good that now you have also the possibility to execute your smart contract secured by the Bitcoin network. So having options is always great, and this is, it was the #1 priority for us from day one to create a standard so every single project that is working on Solidity or Web3 can also secure their solutions on RSK as well. The second pillar is that we decided not to create a new tradable coin. So to execute smart contracts on the RSK blockchain, you don't use Ether, you use smart Bitcoins. Okay? Smart Bitcoins have a 1-to-1 peg to Bitcoin. Actually, RSK is the first production sidechain that ever existed. So for those of you that understand how a sidechain works, RSK is a sidechain of Bitcoin. And the way it works is the following. If you want to execute a smart contract on RSK, you send X amount of Bitcoins or Satoshis to a locking account on the Bitcoin blockchain, and with the same private key, you plug that private key into the RSK blockchain and you unlock the same amount of Bitcoins or Satoshis in smart Bitcoins. Right? Those smart Bitcoins live in the RSK blockchain and you can use them to execute smart contracts. As of today, a cent transaction on RSK costs around 3 cents. Right? And RSK can process up to 100 transactions per second. So this is one of the reasons why many people also see RSK as a way to scale Bitcoin. Because on the Bitcoin side, you can only do 5 transactions per second with SegWit, but if you move those Bitcoins into smart Bitcoins, you can process up to 100 transactions per second. So for this reason, RSK is so well known across the Bitcoin ecosystem, and there is so much support from the Bitcoiners around the world because it's basically using Bitcoin technology at its full potential, or adding the smart contract functionality to the Bitcoin as a currency. Now, the third pillar, which is quite also interesting, is that we allowed ASIC miners to merge mine RSK. Okay, so not only that we're using Bitcoin as fuel, but the miners executing those smart contracts are also Bitcoin miners. And this is something that Sergio has developed using the Decor protocol, which is open source, and you can also search it online. And it's very interesting. I'm going to explain how it works because it's very neat. You know how mining pools work, right? They have a very high difficulty level, and they divide the get work among the different miners. So let's assume that I'm the mining pool and you are miners. I'll give you a different part of the range, and you're trying to mine that specific range. Now, this has a very high difficulty level. So, you know, we need to do a lot of proof of work to reach a positive Bitcoin solution. Now, how do I know how much hashing power each of you have? Because if Mike finds a right solution, I need to distribute as a mining pool the shares among all of you. So I need to know exactly how much hashing power and whether your computers are on or not. So the mining pools also use something called proof of mining, which is a very low difficulty level, where you send answers that the mining pool knows that they are not valid for Bitcoin, but is still a proxy of the amount of hashing power that each of you is mining. So RSK has blocks every 14 seconds. So the difficulty level of RSK, it's in the middle of the Bitcoin difficulty level and the proof of mining. And basically what we do is we use all that scrap, all that information that the miners are receiving, the mining pools are receiving from every single miner, and find valid solutions on RSK. Okay? So what we've been able to do with this is to secure every single smart contract or token that is created on RSK with the same hashing power that a Bitcoin has, but at zero cost for the miners. So the miners, without losing a single % of efficiency on their mining side, on the Bitcoin mining side, can also secure smart contracts. This is great for the ecosystem because we're going to be able to have tokens that are secure in terms of a 51% attack to a Bitcoin. But also for the Bitcoin miners, it's great. It's the first time that they can participate in the smart contract revolution. So they have an extra revenue stream, just getting fees from smart contract execution. Just to clarify, RSK does not have a Coinbase. No, the only reward that you pay and the miners receive from the RSK side is the fees. There's an extra revenue stream for them. So the RSK mainnet, as of today, has 10% of the total Bitcoin hashing power. Once we reach 20%, RSK will be as secure as Ethereum in terms of 51% attack. As of today, we are as secure as Litecoin. And not only that, I mean, if you're mining Bitcoin Cash, you can also merge mine RSK. Right? It doesn't matter which Bitcoin you're mining on the Bitcoin side, you can always mine RSK as well. So potentially we could even have more security than Bitcoin. And actually, via BTC, has already deployed the plugin. As of today, 80% of the total Bitcoin hashing power has already implemented the merge mining plugin. So we should expect in the next couple of months to see the security of RSK going above the 50% of the total hashing power of the 50% of the hashing power mining Bitcoin. We also created a global federation. So if you understand how sidechains work, the global federation is comprised by 25 different exchanges and high security companies in the space. And they are providing different solutions and services to the users of RSK. The most important one is the federated sidechain. So as of today, if you want to send a Bitcoin and convert it into smart Bitcoin, the way from Bitcoin to smart Bitcoin is automated. But when you go from smart Bitcoin to Bitcoin, someone needs to release the Bitcoins that are locked in a Bitcoin account. And this needs to be done in a traditional way. So we presented the VIP to Bitcoin Core to implement the drive chain solution. which basically allows the miners to vote the release of the funds in every single block that they mine until the drive chain is implemented, which is a soft fork with only one opcode to be modified. The two-way peg works as a federated two-way peg. It's not ideal, but we're still talking about companies that manage billions of dollars worth of assets, and every single one of them has one private key of this multi-sig. Are you guys okay in the back? Just don't break anything. Okay. Let's continue then. And the final pillar, of course, and probably the most important one, is the community. RSK is just infrastructure, okay? So what we're trying to do is add functionality to the Bitcoin network and provide the blockchain ecosystem an alternative to secure smart contracts using the Bitcoin network. This should allow us to provide probably the most secure platform and the lowest execution cost. And this is not because we are super smart, it's because we're just using the infrastructure that was available there. If you think about it, all these technologies already existed. I mean, merge mining existed before. The sidechain idea was created by Blockstream and then improved by Paul Stork with the drive chain. The Ethereum virtual machine, of course, existed before. Bitcoin was created by Satoshi. So we just took the best available technologies and put them together with the right economic incentives. Okay? But in order to reach the billions of users that we want to serve with this, well, we need the community to get involved and build those use cases. These are some of the use cases that are currently running on RSK. This one is one that is super simple, but we love it because it's very easy to get into governments and corporations through this use case developed by Signatura. Basically, the way, one of the major problems that we have in Latin America is corruption. And the easiest way to create corruption around the government is with public tenders. So what Signatura did here is that every time the participants of a public tender present a new proposal, they need to hash it on the RSK blockchain, the immutable RSK blockchain. And the week later, when you open the envelopes and you have a winner, you hash again that proposal, and it needs to match the one that was registered on the blockchain. So it's very simple, very low cost, but an easy way to get to governments and corporations promoting transparency and reducing corruption. This is a loyalty marketplace where any shop with 3 clicks can create its own loyalty program. Works for a Starbucks, for a small shop, and a pastry all around the world. Again, I am not a developer. I touch a button and I speak over voice over IP. I don't know what's going on underneath. If we want to be successful and we want to reach billions of users, we need to make blockchain so easy that people use it without knowing what it is, right? And this is something that I guess we share with consensus. We're trying to make this very simple and very easy because most of these newcomers and these new users joining the internet don't know how to read, right? So it needs to be super simple for them. With this solution, with 3 clicks, you can create your own loyalty program without even knowing that you're using blockchain at 0 cost, just using the benefits. Now, this is a very interesting solution that is up and running as of today on Davivienda, which is the 2nd largest bank in Colombia. This bank is mainly focused on promoting financial inclusion in Colombia. There's a huge poverty problem in Colombia. And what they've done is something very interesting because they developed a solution separated on stages. So the first stage, it's a solution, it's not a Salesforce, this is the next one. What they did is a program called Davi Lunch. They were giving free lunch to employees with a plastic card. They changed the plastic card by a wallet, and the employees started receiving tokens that they would exchange or just buy lunch in the local cafeteria. And once a week, the cafeteria was sending the tokens back to the bank and receiving a bank wire. Well, that allowed Davivienda to have 500 employees as beta testers, testing their blockchain solution, where they were looking at the smart contract through a blockchain explorer, getting an automated interface to send the tokens to the different employees every single week. So basically, they were playing with a solution that was 80% what they were going to use on stage 2 and 3, but on an environment that had no regulatory concerns and no commercial concerns because it was just playing within the family of employees. That stage is over now, and we're moving into the second stage where they're going to expand this loyalty program to all their employees, to all their customers. So the interface this time is going to act in such a way that when you consume or spend money with your credit card, you get tokens that you're going to use for to buy stuff or exchange for awards in the future. This would allow the bank to test blockchain technology with more than 3 million customers. And we're already helping the bank in conversations with the central bank. And the plan is once they've proven to have a secure environment for loyalty programs for their customers, we're going to ask the central bank to allow us to do a sandbox to provide microloans at a very low interest rate for these same 3 million customers, but now with the button that says request a loan or request a deposit. And this is a 24/7 automated financial system that would allow the bank to reach billions of new customers that are currently unserved in Colombia and the rest of Latin America. So as founders or as part of the team of RSK, our commitment is to the end users, to these 3 billion people in this planet that are currently underserved and want to be part of the financial system. For us, it doesn't matter whether it's a bank, two kids in a garage, or a fintech serving them. We just want to make sure that there are no barriers to entry for innovation. So competition allows to reduce the cost and include as many people as possible. Same use case in this case for Tarjeta Naranja, which is the largest non-banking credit card in Argentina. Same structure. The first one they did was to incentivize the sales force. So they had 160 branches, and they were playing a competition where the 10 branches that had the most points at the end of the quarter were changing those points for awards and trips. Well, we changed that. There was a paper posted on the fridge of every single branch by a blockchain e-wallet that every single employee was using, and then the stage second and third are exactly the same, right? So we're helping banks and financial institutions to learn how to use blockchain as soon as possible to be able to compete and to innovate and to bring services to these billions of users in Latin America and the rest of the world as soon as possible. These are 4 non-for-profit projects that we spend a lot of time on. As I said before, we always have these 2 hats, and we spend a lot of time on non-for-profit efforts. The first one is Blockchain for Humanity. This is a decentralized incubator of social projects using blockchain technology. Basically, the idea here is that there's a lot of entrepreneurs being attracted to the market, and some of them not with the right incentives or for the right reasons. And we, as an ecosystem, especially those of us that have been around for a long time, need to protect and make sure that the good use cases using blockchain technology to transform our society reach a proof of concept, have visibility, have presence in the media. Usually, the worse the projects are, the more success they have in their ICOs, right? So we need to make sure that those projects that don't have enough funding to spend in marketing can also reach a proof of concept, because when all those ICOs fail, that's going to be very harmful for the blockchain space as a whole. And just to clarify, Blockchain for Humanity is completely blockchain agnostic, right? It's not something that we're doing. RSK is supporting this project, but any project that you know that is doing something to help our society using any kind of blockchain, just let us know, because if we can, we're going to help them. It's something that we've been doing from the NGO in Latin America for the last 5 years, so it's super natural to us to help projects coming to Latin America, getting to Africa, getting to Eastern Europe, or anywhere where there's a real need for that use case. As I said before, we're running LaBitConf, complete non-for-profit conference, the most interesting conference in Latin America, one of the most fun conferences in the world. We have the most interesting speakers coming every year. We had Nick Szabo last year. But as we're also from Latin America, we just can do whatever we want, right? Because it's always funny. We do very politically incorrect stuff and people laugh. So we said, okay, what can we do last year? And we said, can we bring Satoshi to the conference. So through Andreas, we contacted Dorian, Satoshi Nakamoto, and he came to the conference. It was a blast. I mean, he clearly took over the conference. At some point, people were pestering so much to take pictures that we said, in the next break, just form a line. And it was like 200 people waiting in line to take a picture with Dorian. I think he's coming, I cannot promise, but probably he's gonna come again in Chile because he's part of the crew now, so he's gonna come every year. So I definitely encourage you guys, if you can, to come to Chile this year. If you cannot make it, all the presentations and all the information is available for free online. We believe that information, it's a human right, and everything we do, we want to be sure as much as possible. Our latest crazy idea is La Bitcoineta. La Bitcoineta, you know, a camioneta is like a minivan. So this is like a crypto minivan that will go from small town to small town, all around Argentina, will arrive to Chile, to La BitConf, and continue to the rest of Latin America. It's kind of a crypto Che Guevara that will go to reach those users that haven't heard about crypto yet, that want to know how to save, how to become self-employed, how to deploy use cases in their own communities, or become developers. So again, if you, and we were talking to Blockstream at Consensus, and La Bitcoineta will have a dish. So we will have a full node connected to the internet. Will be, and also from one of our miner friends, we're going to receive a miner. So it's going to be, you know, mining in the road. It's going to be very crazy. There are all open spots for co-pilots for weeks. So if any of you want to travel around Latin America in the Bitcoineta for a few weeks, just let us know. It's for sure it's going to be a lot of fun. But the most important thing that La Bitcoineta will be doing is just asking people, what do you need? You know, how we can help. So if someone needs to register their ID or have a land registry because the local government is not providing what they need, the La Bitcoineta will be contacting the rest of the ecosystem and trying to provide blockchain solutions to those who need it the most. And finally, we created something called RSK Educate, because it might be clear here, it's super clear in Latin America, the most important bottleneck that we have in the industry is the lack of developers, right? And the lack of talent on the blockchain space. So it's clearly something that we should all try to address. And we said, well, what can we do from RSK? So we created the content for a developers course and a decision makers course with the slides, with the scripts and everything that a teacher should teach on that class. And we just give it for free to universities or digital houses that want to create the local blockchain hub in their city. And we're sharing this in Africa, in Latin America, Europe, US. So if you guys want to get involved into education or know someone that is working on an education project, just let us know. All of this is completely non-for-profit and blockchain agnostic. RSK Educate is not an RSK course. It's a full blockchain stack course, right? And before we finish, this is a message that we try to put up there every time we give a presentation, because there are many entrepreneurs and people trying to get involved into the space, sometimes lost and said, okay, what should I develop? Well, we have this vision that, you know, when we started, we came to the Silicon Valley for the first time and wanted to become entrepreneurs, everybody told us that we should pursue a unicorn, right? We should try to build something that reach $1 billion worth of enterprise value or become billionaires ourselves. And we think that maybe it's about the time that we start changing that idea. That, you know, just becoming, as I said before, just becoming rich or creating a huge company, well, that basically won't change anything in our society. And with blockchain technology, there might be a chance that if we spend time building solutions or use cases that are targeting the billions of new users that are coming to the financial services, we will be transforming our society in positive ways, but also creating one of those few use cases that will be profitable in the future. A guy that was #1 in the blockchain department at a European bank told me something that was very interesting. He said, 10 years ago, the bank didn't know how to deal with SMEs. The whole bank was built only to work with major corporations. Today, the SME division is the most profitable segment of the bank. And he said, probably in 10 years, I wouldn't be surprised if the only profitable segment of the bank is microfinance and microtransactions, right? We are very lousy customers in the music industry. SME is small and medium enterprises, okay? Sorry. I used to buy a lot of music CDs in the past. Now I pay $5 and I listen to everything on Spotify. I used to rent a lot of DVDs and now I pay a fixed amount for streaming. I am planning to be a very bad financial services customer in the future. We won't be willing to pay anything. So the banks will just need to move to a new segment of the market where still people will be willing to pay substantial margins, right? So maybe if you're trying to think what business model to develop or how to get involved in the space, keep this in mind, because probably the only positive margins will be in the billions of newcomers to the internet. But there, as of today, there is no bank and no fintech that has the technology and the processes in order to be able to handle millions of microtransactions and make money in the process. Only with the security of Bitcoin technology and blockchain technology and the programmability of smart contracts, we are going to be able to create these use cases that are going to have the automation of WhatsApp or Spotify by apply to the Internet of Value. Now, if you guys want to get involved with RSK or check the codes, this is our GitHub. Everything we do is open source. If you think that you have a better idea how to do it, just take the code and improve it, right? If you have technical questions, this is our Gitter. You can talk directly to our developers. If you have a smart contract and you want to bring it on the testnet, you can get smart Bitcoins for free from the testnet. If you want to run it on the mainnet, we can give you free fuel on the whitelisting. If you want to get involved in education, go to educate.rsk.co, or if you just go to rsk.co, you'll see all these links. Something also very interesting is the ambassador program. So what we try to do with the ambassador program is to get this global community working on blockchain use cases to have a place where they can interact. So if you guys developed an application that is very interesting here in Atlanta, and you are willing to deploy it in Brazil or Mexico or Argentina or Paraguay or India, well, through the ambassador network, the idea is that you guys are going to be able to reach global scale on every solution. Or maybe you need something here that has been developed in India and you can just use it. There is no point that we reinvent the wheel every single time we want to develop a use case. So this is what we wanted to share with you. Thank you very much for having us here. Brandon. Yes, if I understood correctly, which are the main features or what I would highlight about RSK? Yes, so the most important thing is that basically we are using Bitcoin infrastructure to secure smart contracts, right? And this is the most unique thing. There is a huge consumption of energy and a massive amount of hardware securing Bitcoin, and it's there available for us to secure smart contracts. I always like to make a comparison. Do you remember when we started receiving internet connection through the copper cable on the wall? Well, that was infrastructure that was already deployed just to speak over the phone, and we started using it for something way more exciting, that was internet connection. So this is the general concept of what RSK is doing. It's just using the available infrastructure deployed to secure smart Bitcoin, but now making it available also for smart contracts. And another thing that is interesting with the sidechain architecture is that it's built on layers. And for those of you that are software developers, you will see a lot of comparisons between the Internet of Knowledge and how it was built and information, and how sidechains are building the Internet of Value. So imagine if every time you would connect to the Internet, every single node would have to have access to the information you're receiving, right? This is how blockchains work as of today, right? Every single node has all the information that is available. The idea is that with RSK, you will going to be building different layers with different functionality and different risk profiles. So in the first layer, you have store of value, right? You have Bitcoin. Bitcoin is like an armored truck, right? It's not very sexy, but it doesn't have air conditioning, it doesn't go very fast, but it's super secure. So if you want to send a lot of money from one bank to the other, you don't care about those other features. You just use whatever is the most secure mechanism. And we don't have to move away from Bitcoin. So if you want to make an ICO on RSK, you just receive the funds in Bitcoin, right? And then you issue the tokens on RSK. And the tokens and the Bitcoins have the same security profile because they're merged mined by the same miners. And the only smart Bitcoins that you have with a higher level of risk or lower level of security are the ones that you need to pay for the execution of the smart contract. We're talking about cents, okay? Now, if you want to create a more complex use case where you need more scalability, many more transactions per second, or programmability, functionality, something similar to Prism. Now, if you want to create a portfolio through a smart contract where you can diversify in different tokens, well, in that case, you're going to need a smart Bitcoin, right? Because you need additional functionality. Your long-term savings will be kept in Bitcoin, but when you need additional functionality or scalability, you will go to the sidechain. Now, if you need more transactions per second, then you probably use the third layer, which is the Lumino network. The Lumino is the RSK version of Raiden, right, which is an off-chain payment channels for every token that is developed on RSK. And with that, you're going to be able to transact up to 20,000 smart Bitcoin transactions per second or any other kind of token. So it's not ideal in terms of decentralization because probably an old lady in Nepal that cannot afford to have every single transaction registered on the blockchain will go through a bank or a fintech that is a master node that connects that old lady and that payment channel with the rest of the world. But for her, you know, the centralization problem won't be as bad as to be able to transact with multiple players and have 3 cents of cost per month, right? When she opens and closes the payment channel. So for different use cases, you'll have different functionality and different risk profiles. The upper you go, the lower the security, because you need to go first through the two-way peg, which is never as secure as just having your own Bitcoins. And the third one is the payment channel. But the trade-off goes with scalability and programmability. So this is something very interesting that I think the Ethereum team is thinking about right now, because part of the sharding solution has to do with this. One of the conflicts that we have on Ethereum is that Ether has become a store of value. It was not meant to be store of value. It was not immutable and it was not scarce, but now it has a lot of value. So one of the problems that we have in the Ethereum community is that many people get concerned when the project wants to innovate too fast. Because come on, just don't touch it. Don't break it. Same thing that we see in Bitcoin. It's like, it doesn't matter whether it innovates too fast, it's just don't break it and keep the store of value. So having the different layers separated, where you can innovate in the business rule layer without affecting the store of value, is something very interesting that the sidechain architecture is bringing to the ecosystem. Mike.
Sorry, I was just going to ask, are you mirroring Ethereum's Solidity for your scripting language? And if so, are you going to keep pace with changes made to Solidity?
Yes, so as of today, RSK is fully compatible with Ethereum and with the Ethereum version of Solidity. In the future, we have 67 RSK improvement proposals. Many of them solved very important issues that Ethereum has as of today, and given that we are newer and we can move faster. So the idea is that we will always have a version 0 that is going to be fully compatible, and there's going to be versioning with different new features to allow very easy conversion into the new ones. But for instance, one of the solutions is storage rent. One of the problems that we have in Ethereum today is that you can just create a smart contract to test something, and that space is going to be sitting in the Ethereum blockchain forever, right? So one of the solutions that Sergio has found for this is something called contract hibernation or storage rent, where basically you can have a contract that is in the blockchain forever. It's going to be extremely expensive. But then if you want to have another version, which is cheaper, you need to pay for the amount of time that you want to have that smart contract sitting on the public blockchain. Whenever you stop paying, the contract gets hashed, right? So occupies minimum space on the blockchain, and you keep a version of the smart contract on your computer or multiple servers. Whenever you want to revive that smart contract, you start paying gas again, and the contract gets dehibernated. Okay, so we're going to be doing this kind of innovations, and it's a trade-off because we're going to lose some compatibility. I think Sergio now found a way to do contract hibernation without losing compatibility, but it's definitely something that we want to make it super simple for developers to just be able to deploy solutions on both blockchains at the same time. It doesn't need to be either one or the other. You just can make it available on both. But see, so we will try to keep compatibility as much as we can. When new features will be implemented, there's going to be in a different version, so it's going to be very simple for developers to know how to move them. One, two.
You mentioned examples of the two banks, Davivienda and Tarjeta Naranja, that will be micro-lending to individuals. Do you have would you be going the next step further, or facilitate the next step further, where individuals, peer-to-peer, could micro-lend to each other, sort of, if you're familiar with the M-Pesa system they use in Kenya?
Of course.
That kind of thing.
Of course. I mean, well, we're building the infrastructure to allow all those use cases, right? And then what we're also doing is just helping these institutions to learn how to use blockchain and smart contracts and develop those use cases. I think it's extremely important to have the incumbents to be part of this. We want them to feel part of this and to be able to innovate. For most banks, it's extremely difficult to just change their own business models and innovate on something that can erode their own business models. But if you think about it, the Latin American banks or the banks from the emerging markets are the ones that have the less to lose. You know, the growth potential in new customers right out there in their own markets is so large that they can afford to lose margin on the high net worth individuals and pursue financial inclusion. I think that's one of the most important challenges that the US and Europe has, and this is why we have the BID license. Because there is so much lobby from the blockbusters of this financial system that it will be very challenging for American or North American or European startups to innovate and to bring new use cases, because they're going to be in the same markets where the incumbents that have a lot to lose are here. We're spending a lot of time with credit card companies and banks trying to explain them the challenges that are coming, but also the opportunities, right? In our vision, this is similar to when the Chinese started eating protein, that the commodity prices soared for 20 years. This is 2 or 3 billion new customers desperate for consumer credit, willing to pay an interest rate for those services, for those who can serve them. So the challenge here is how to manage 1 million microloans, right? How to create an automated Grameen bank, right? But demand is there. So hopefully banks and financial institutions will understand this, and by doing this, we'll be creating amazing business models and helping us to build a more equal and fair financial system.
So we're running short on time. We have 3 more people that have questions lined up. If you can answer these quick, we can get all 3 of them. So
Good.
You mentioned that the mining algorithm is not ASIC resistant. How would you respond to the critics who said, why would I even bother mining? Because most of the mining for Bitcoin is done by large institutions or whatever. Most of the profits are going to somebody. If I try to mine it, I'm getting nothing. How would you respond to those?
Okay, so RSK is implemented at the mining pool level, right? So definitely mining concentration, it's an issue. Some people say that mining has never been more decentralized, right? On day one, it was only Satoshi mining. So we will see how this will evolve. It's definitely a major concern for the whole ecosystem. We did something trying to help on that, which is that there's one thing that Satoshi didn't, I mean, we wish he would have done different. That is that the full nodes are not economically rewarded, right? As you know, full nodes play a key role in the ecosystem because they provide decentralization and make the whole ecosystem more anti-fragile. So we thought, is there anything we can do from RSK to contribute to the decentralization? I said, well, let's reward full nodes. So part of the fees generated on the RSK layer will be used to reward full nodes, but not only RSK full nodes, also Bitcoin full nodes. So if you're going to be running an RSK Bitcoin double full node, you're going to be receiving double reward, okay? So we believe that the mining industry will get more atomized in the future when the Samsungs and the different, chip manufacturers get involved. But as of today, there's something we can do, which is reward economically the full nodes, and we're going to be working on that, and we expect to launch it before next year.
In terms of security, now we're not talking. I'm not talking about how secure it is or the encryption value. But let's say I borrowed money from you, the bank. I don't want Michael to snoop on that and know that
It's always a problem with Michael.
So can you talk to the security aspect of access to that information by those that shouldn't?
Okay, so I'm not sure if I understood the question. What I can tell you is that we are spending a lot of time helping these banks to understand how to deal with the public blockchains, okay? And we had a conversation before starting this meetup today, whether, are the public blockchains the future, private blockchains? We think it's very important that people understand that there's a very easy correlation between the intranets and the internet and how being connected to the rest of the world and the innovation that you guys are going to be creating on the public blockchains, we believe it's going to be very tough for private blockchains isolated from the global innovation to keep up. But if banks are going to be interacting with the public blockchains, they need to understand how to build their infrastructure and their solutions to make sure that in the public blockchains, they only keep whatever needs to be public and immutable, and the rest they deal on private service. Most of the times, and the use cases that I've seen on private blockchains are kind of a hybrid that many times don't make sense. I mean, if you want to keep information super private and secure, it's always going to be better protected in one traditional server than in 10 different servers with different vectors of attack. And if you need something to be public and immutable, then you just, whatever that small piece of information, you hash it and you put it on the blockchain. So we are helping the banks to understand this, and this is why this whole stages made so much sense. Because if you want to go from zero to a financial inclusion e-wallet, every single person in the bank will get so scared and so worried, and will be trying to stop this. If you start playing with a loyalty solution for your employees, it allows you to learn and to gain confidence and to decide how to deal with the blockchain trade-offs. Now, if you're running information on 10,000 servers, instead of one, that is going to be 10 times more inefficient than do it in one server. So we spend a lot of time explaining to these corporations when blockchain makes sense and when it doesn't.
Okay, so we have our last question right here, and then, like I said, please try to pick up and throw away everything around you, and we'll head out to Twin Peaks. So last question right here.
Yeah, so you mentioned your main narrative was helping developing worlds get onto the blockchain. So one thing with developing worlds is that some of them might have cash and only carry cash and might not deal with the banks. Some of them, the banks, getting to the bank might be far. Can you talk a little bit about how you plan on transitioning the ones that do carry cash? How do you plan on getting them onto the blockchain?
Yes, so we're very excited about solutions that incentivize tellers, personal tellers, to become like decentralized banking branches, you know, similar to Abra or to local Bitcoin, so to Dieter. Those kind of solutions where a person can become a cash in, cash out part of a system are going to be key, especially in the emerging markets. We've developed a few partnerships with different non-banking networks, those that allow you to recharge your prepaid phone, and we expect them to become key players in the financial services of the future. So you receive a microloan from anywhere in the world, and you just go to the kiosk where you recharge your phone every week, and they just give you the cash you requested to a Chinese development bank or Indian or anywhere. So this is going to be a major challenge, how to reach those users that are very far from the bank. But the good thing is that we hate going to the bank anyways, no? So it is definitely something that will be developed in the future, and I think the tellers and the non-banking cell phone networks will be key. Okay, guys, thank you very much for having us here.